Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 192, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I am your enunciating host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince. I slurred it. Let me start over.
No starting over, because we gotta move on to things that are far more important. A free podcast on the internet.
All right.
But in all seriousness, we thought it would be a good time to go over some of maybe our favorite beat-em-ups, considering that Streets of Rage 4 is coming out later on this year, which we are both very excited about. But I actually, what got me into this is... I didn't tell you this yet, Lotus, but over the weekend I beat Dragon Quest 11.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that I kind of thought just didn't have an end. It obviously does, but who's going to get to it?
Well, here's the thing. It has a definitive ending, of course, to its story, but that has plenty to do afterwards if you so wish.
Okay.
There are plenty of side missions to go after, and then there is a lot of post-game content.
Sure.
I'm not usually the kind of guy who goes into post-game content, to continue to level up your character and get all of the abilities that you couldn't before, because to me, I've already beaten it, so that's, to me, is beating it, but
yeah, for me it depends on the game.
Yeah.
And it depends on my mood. For the Lego games, the game really kind of opens up when you first reach the end credits.
Exactly.
Same with Disgaea. Beating the story is 10% of the game.
So here's the thing. Dragon Quest XI, in terms of challenge, is in the middle. There are some fights that are pretty difficult, but I only died a handful of times in the game, maybe 3 times. But I also leveled up a lot. So I did, but the game in terms of a JRPG, one of the things about playing the early Dragon Quest is that they were grind fests. They were absolute grind fests. This game, all of the battles on the overworld are optional. If you go near the enemies that show up on the overworld, of course you have a greater chance of aggroing them and starting a fight, but you can avoid them altogether if you wish. But I tended to fight battles just to fight them, just so I could remain leveled properly, and I did really well with it. But I digress. This isn't about Dragon Quest. But what I was getting to is that I started to play something else, to move on to something else, and I decided to play River City Girls. And I had played a little bit of that before, right when I received it in the mail, because I got the limited run version. And I really love this game. It might be the best River City game. It's really, really good. It's by Way Forward, who worked on another Technos game before this. Do you remember which one?
I don't recognize that company name.
Okay, so Technos made all the River City games, but they also made all the Double Dragon games.
Oh, okay.
So Way Forward made Double Dragon Neon. So what is pretty cool about River City Girls is that not only is it a celebration of the previous River City or Kunio-kun games, it is also a celebration of Double Dragon games. So what's really cool is the very first dojo has the Double Dragon Neon version of Jimmy Lee.
Nice.
As the dojo master, as the sensei, I should say. And I just got to a shop that is the proprietor is none other than Skullmageddon.
What? I guess he's calmed down after getting his spine punched by Marion.
Not only is he there and selling things to you, he actually has a bit of dialogue.
Is he
Like
still making
voice.
stupid bone puns?
Yes, voice
Nice.
dialogue with stupid bum puns. The girls, the first thing that they do when they encounter him is ask him how he's talking because he has no like face muscles
Yeah, no vocal cords.
or skin.
Yeah.
So they make fun of him immediately, but he looks badass. He's all like buff like Skeletor was. So
That's great.
it's really really funny. And not only that, but like the pixel art is some of the best I've ever seen. It's probably the best. It's really really fucking good. When it came out, we were like singing its praises because the person who worked on the pixel art was talking about on Twitter about how much effort they put into like even their idle animations and things like that.
No, you know what you gotta say that I saw people not only talking about but like players noticing was if you pick up the yo-yo weapon.
Yeah, I was right about to talk about that.
Yeah, when you're just walking, you're just doing the yo-yo. That's so much animation.
And the yo-yo is one of the coolest weapons that you can just find anywhere. It's akin to, it's as powerful as the whip is in Growl. let me just put it that way.
That's a good point of reference for the listeners to understand.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like the whip in Growl is like one of the most OP like sub weapons of any game that I can think of. It's a lot of fun to use, and it's like very powerful. It can get characters behind you and in front of you, and it has a huge reach. Well, the yo-yo is really quick and can hit enemy. You could do a lot of juggling with enemies. It's just a lot of fun, and I've been really enjoying it. I love the Kunio-kun games, but a lot of them are kind of janky as hell. And as time goes on, they've gotten better, and especially when they've been outsourced. So like this one is like probably the best one because like it has amazing music. The music is really phenomenal. You should listen to it. The music in Double Dragon Neon was fantastic too.
Oh
but,
yeah.
This has some really good 80s synth music, 80s style synth music, and it's phenomenal. Really, really cool. I'm really, really enjoying this. I just one of the enemies that I just ran into was Linda Lash from Double Dragon.
Nice.
So and she's just like a normal bad guy in the game. A Bobo's in the game in a stupid.
Oh, I heard about that.
A stupid PSA in like one of the classrooms that's being shown on like a school projector. So I'm really having a blast with it. I know it won't be as long as fucking Dragon Quest XI, which was over 100 hours for me. I think it was about 110 in total that I put into it, and that was just the base game.
Yeah, for the record, that's how long it took me to like platinum Dark Souls, which requires like 2.5 playthroughs.
Oh, I didn't even get close to getting all the achievements in Dragon Quest, believe me. And I didn't get any ultimate weapons or anything like that either. So, I didn't get ultimate armors. The end game is fashion, as they say, with RPGs, including Dark Souls. The end game is fashion, not beating the game.
And in Bloodborne, the freaking base game is fashion.
yeah, exactly. But I just wanted to get an opportunity to mention that because we could also talk about its heritage as well. Of course the original game is that we're talking about. Actually, you can't talk about beat 'em ups and not talk about the River City games because the genre was originated by a Kunio-kun game or a River City game, which was Renegade. Renegade is considered to be the first beat 'em up by a lot of people. I don't think there's anything really before that like most people will say like Renegade's it. And Renegade is the localized version of the original Kunio-kun game. So and then they made Double Dragon after that, which really solidified it. And then probably I would say that the next touchstone game after that in that genre is Final Fight. And after Final Fight, you have games like Streets of Rage that went in that vein.
I
But
mean, that's true, but Final Fight was like, what, Super Nintendo?
Final Fight was arcade.
Okay, that's true. That's right. It was on like Sega CD and stuff. There was the arcade port. Okay.
And Final Fight was arcade. It came out in '89.
Okay. Because I was thinking Double Dragon. Wouldn't that have come before Final Fight?
I mentioned Double Dragon.
Okay. Because I know they were tied into the
Renegade, Double
universe.
Dragon, then Final Fight.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, no, you glanced over my mention of it, Lotus.
Oh, no. Well, I wanted you to mention it twice, so it'd be double.
Yeah. Trouble, make it double.
Yes.
But yeah, Double Dragon is made by the same people as Renegade and the Kunio-kun games, so they have a lineage together. But fantastic music, great themes in the game. Like Double Dragon was cool because it was kind of post-apocalyptic and really brutal in terms of like its like themes in general. Like your girlfriend just straight up gets slugged in the stomach in the very beginning of the game, and they carry her away. In the second game, you know what they do to her?
No.
They straight up shoot her. Like
Jesus.
Like they slug her in the first game, and in the second game they shoot her.
Was that like a joke? Like we're gonna like one up it,
or
were they playing that straight?
No, I mean they've always been kind of tongue in cheek. I mean, like
okay, because like I'm just thinking of Bobo's Big Adventure, where like they capture
kick in the nuts.
Yeah, they kick him in the dick like 3 times. And they just like pull him off. It's like, geez, come on.
So,
boy.
For those of you that are uninitiated, you should look back in Lotus's channel. We have a Let's Play of a fan beat 'em up game called Bobo's Big Adventure.
It's kind of a beat 'em up game until it isn't anymore. It's like every genre.
It starts off as a Double Dragon.
It starts off as Double Dragon, yeah.
But Bobo is one of the most recognizable, probably the most recognizable Double Dragon bad guy.
He's a very recognizable bad guy, like in general, and
he
that's
just
really...
looks strange.
Well, yeah, but like what's interesting is that he's not the boss of Double Dragon.
No, he's
but,
like the first boss.
Yeah, he's the first boss. So like everybody's run into him. Like you can make it to the first boss. So it's like, oh, him.
Well,
it just
a lot
makes
of
you
the
think
bosses
Karnov popping up.
A lot of the bosses are also like reskins of him and stuff. So I
That's
mean,
true.
It's really he has an iconic look and in an iconic game and. First boss...
it just makes me think of like Golden Axe, the 2 big Hammer brothers. Like
they're very iconic too.
Kind of, but like nobody touches a Bobo. Yeah,
a Bobo is one of those iconic bad guys. He's just there. He's even in the in one form or another in the live action movie. He's Bobo.
That's sure. A Bobo is definitely who that is.
He's Bobo, and he goes ho 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 ho, in that digitized like thing of him in the car. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Oh wow, I forgot about that. Actually,
then,
you know what gets me? I think we mentioned this before, but in the live action movie, the brothers Jimmy and Billy,
Bimmy and Jammy, yeah,
Bimmy and Jammy. I want to say, I could be wrong, but I don't remember which brother, but one of the brothers ended up being the swordsman Zero in John Wick 3.
Really?
That was him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the Iron Chef guy. He was. I forgot Billy or Jimmy. It's been a million years since I've seen that movie.
I think that's Jimmy.
It might be, but they're both the silly brother in that fucking movie.
Yeah, but like, one is clearly a lot better at martial arts. The Asian-looking one is clearly a lot better at martial arts than the other one, who just kind of slaps people around.
Being like the John Wick 3 guy.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that is cool. Well,
also,
he's had a
Patrick
career.
Was in that movie? What the fuck?
And Andy Dick. Yeah.
Weird.
Yep. Alyssa Milano. It was Marion in it.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it has some big names in it, despite being a total piece of crap. But
Yep.
I love it. I think it's pretty great. It's crappy, but it's one of those like guilty pleasure kind of movies.
Yeah.
But
that's how I feel about Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I know what that movie is, but I freaking love it.
The Mortal Kombat movies are always good. But anyway,
watch Annihilation again.
It's shit, but
Mother, you're alive. Too bad you will die.
I like watching. I like watching movies that kind of have a loose interpretation of what they're adapting, like so much so that it's like barely recognizable. Like,
well, the second movie has a loose interpretation of the first movie's budget.
Like Super Mario Brothers, I love watching that. Like
that
the
was
Mario
a
Brothers
brilliant premise with jank execution.
Yeah, by the directors of Max Headroom. But anyway,
oh yeah, and that Mario Brothers movie had John Leguizamo. You know, the guy who was in John Wick.
Yeah, famous for being an Italian, along with a very famous Brit.
Yeah, remember that time John Leguizamo was in the Spawn movie?
Yep, I saw that in the theater.
So did I.
With actually, guess who I watched that with? Pyro.
I watched it with one of my school friends, and like my mom took me. She's a fucking trooper for sitting through that movie.
I watched it at Pyro's birthday party.
Very nice.
When we had a sleepover at his house when he lived near my parents' place.
Picks up this slice of pizza from a dumpster crawling with maggots. Ew, I hate anchovies. Takes a big bite.
But anyway, yeah, Martin Sheen in that. Jesus.
Yeah, that's right.
Martin Sheen's the bad guy. But yeah, moving on from that, of course, I do want to mention some other really big titles. I love the Final Fight games, obviously, but Streets of Rage is like big in my heart. And
yeah, same. I grew up with Streets of Rage and not Final Fight. I don't think I touched Final Fight until like a Super Nintendo emulator in college.
Well, I didn't have a Super Nintendo until around the time that the N64 came out, believe it or not.
Well, I didn't have a Super Nintendo until like 2015 or something.
But I did play Final Fight a lot in the arcade. Because I went to arcades a lot when I was a kid. So I was very familiar with Final Fight and its influence on other games. But I was a Streets of Rage kid. I had Streets of Rage 1 on the Sega CD growing up, because it came with the Sega CD. And I always had Streets of Rage 2 whenever that came out. We had picked it up. And
yeah, I want to say my family owned Streets of Rage 2. We didn't own Streets of Rage 1. I mean, I have it now, but we didn't own Streets of Rage 1, but we had borrowed it from our neighbor. We played it kind of the same way you did. Not on the Sega CD, but on the Genesis sampler, the 6-pack.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That came with Golden Axe, Streets of Rage. So that's how I got to know Golden Axe and Streets of Rage. I played it on the 6-pack, and it was great.
Gotcha. Yeah, we so the Sega Classics collection that came with the Sega CD, it was bundled. Actually, that system was bundled with a lot of stuff.
Like Sherlock Holmes.
It came with Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 1. It came with a Sega Classics collection, which had Revenge of Shinobi, Golden Axe 1,
Streets of Rage 1, Columns.
And Streets of Rage 1. Yeah, I think that's it.
And no, it was a 6-pack. No, sorry, Sega CD. Sorry, Sega CD. Yeah,
it was a 4-pack.
Yeah, my bad. The Sega Genesis had those games plus some shooter
probably Sonic
and
2.
Like Sonic 1.
Yeah. And the Sega CD also came with Soul Feast.
That's right. Yeah, Mr. Ryu I think has that version.
Yeah. Those were pretty iconic for me, and it was kind of one of those things where I really loved Streets of Rage 2, mostly because of the music and just how great it played. It's just one of those perfect games, and I went back and played Streets of Rage 2 and Streets of Rage 1 and still really loved it.
Yeah, that game holds up reasonably well, but Streets of Rage 2 is the gold standard.
Yeah, and then Streets of Rage 3 I was terribly disappointed by at the time.
3 is one of those games that I'd only heard existed.
I rented it.
I'd never seen a copy in my life. They're like, oh, you can play as this robot guy. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and I didn't actually see that game until, like, with my own eyes until, like, the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection on PS3 and 360. And that's when I tried that game out, and it was hard to the point of not being fun. With a level select code, I still could not beat that game.
Yeah.
Absurd. Bare Knuckle 3, the Japanese version, is actually very good, and it rivals Streets of Rage 2 in quality.
Yeah, no, it's a really good game that they completely ruined when they localized it, unfortunately. Definitely find an English fan translated version of the third game and seek that out if you want to play a really great beat 'em up from that era. Also, I have to hand it to the Final Fight trilogy. I mean, other than Final Fight 1, which I've been talking about, Final Fight 2 was quite fun, but Final Fight 3 is very underlooked mainly because of how expensive it is.
Yeah.
It's a pretty rare game. It was a late Super Nintendo game, and it is really, really good.
Which was the one with Rolento? Was that 2 or 3?
Rolento is in 1, actually.
Wow. And he's just called Roland?
Yeah, Rolento. I think he's the only character that shows up from the first game in the second game.
Okay, because he's made it over to Street Fighter now.
Yeah, Rolento was a boss in the first Final Fight, but I think they might have cut him out of the Super Nintendo version of the first game. So, I have to say that the Super Nintendo port of the original Final Fight is incredibly disappointing. It is a launch era game. It looks good, but it is not 2-player, which is a beat 'em up staple.
Yeah.
Since Double Dragon, that was the whole point of Double Dragon, was that you could play 2 players at once.
It's double. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you could even do it in Renegade. I think you could be Kunio and Ricky. So anyway, I'm pretty sure.
You could certainly play 2-player in Golden Axe.
You could play 2-player in every other major beat 'em up from that time, including the arcade version of Final Fight, the original Final Fight, and they stripped one of the 3 playable characters out of it. They stripped out Guy.
Yeah, and Guy is one of the more popular characters.
And Guy is one of the popular. All 3 of them are pretty damn popular.
And Guy made it into Guy and Cody actually made it into Street Fighter.
Yeah, I'm still mystified that Hagar, who is a popular character, hasn't made it into Street Fighter yet. I don't know. Maybe I guess they would think he was too similar to Zangief.
Yeah, they have said that. I forgot which one was which, but in canon, the spinning lariat, one of them observed and assimilated the move from the other.
Yeah, I guess they're assuming that maybe Hagar would be basically too much of a clone of Zangief.
Yeah, Hagar. I think Hagar learned from Zangief because Zangief's a pro wrestler.
Well, they both are in canon.
Jeez. Okay.
Hagar is a playable character in Saturday Night Slam Masters.
That's amazing.
And in canon, in the Final Fight story, he is a former pro wrestler.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah. And yeah. So
well, then one of them influenced the other.
Exactly. But those are all really good games. So to the point where, but. To give you an insight to how disappointing this was at the time, Capcom knew this was disappointing, so they made a whole nother version, which is also crappy.
Final Fight Guy.
That has Hagar replaced with is Cody replaced with Guy. So it's Guy, the main character of the game's not even in it.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Cody's the main character.
Yeah, Hagar is the girl who's taken hostage. Hagar is her father, and Cody is her boyfriend. And yes. Guy is just a dude. I mean, he's a guy.
he's their friend.
Yeah.
He's Cody's sparring partner.
Yeah, Cody and Guy hang out with each other all the time. It's great because Guy is the straight man, and Cody's yeah, whatever.
But the point is, they didn't rectify the 2-player mode issue.
The thing that people complained about.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, and to sweeten the deal, in America, that game was a Blockbuster exclusive, so like you're not,
it's really rare.
You're not getting it. Yeah.
I had a copy of it. I had a copy of it for a long time, but then I was like, why do I even like I sold it because like I knew it was worth money, so like I could get the money, and like there are other better versions of the original Final Fight out there.
You can buy the arcade version now.
You can buy the arcade version now, but back then like I just bought the Sega CD version, which is very near to the arcade version.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, actually, speaking of Sega CD, I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, but I still think these are legitimate contenders. Which is the cooler box art, Sega CD or Super Nintendo? Because both of those are amazing for different reasons.
Well, the original Final Fight is just what is it? Abigail and Hagar facing off face to face. Isn't that what's going on?
On the Super Nintendo, yeah, like their big mustached faces are like an inch from each other with this like stare of intimidation. It's like so retro badass.
It's very Arnold. It's very like similar to like Predator and him and Jesse Ventura like going like that. Or even like maybe Stallone and Dolph Lundgren facing off, like that kind of thing. Yeah. But I have to give it to the OG art. The Final Fight CD art is like the original
I figured you
flyer
would take
art,
direction. Yeah.
And it's just like a bunch of like bad guys with
a pool of fucking blood coming out of one of their...
Yeah, and Andori is like face down in a pool of his own blood with like Cody standing over him.
Yeah, it's fucking bad. On the Western version, I think they made it blue, like it's like a puddle or something, but it's blood.
It's badass. It's one of the coolest bits of like arcade art or video game art in general. I love it.
I also got to give a nod to we've talked about this, but Road Avenger, like the American release.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good.
I like that with the like stretchy face. Like that's really cool. I also really like, speaking of Double Dragon 2's cover art is one of the most like iconic pieces of video game art to me. I really love that. It's like with the Lee brothers basically fighting all the bad guys beneath them on a starry sky, and like one of them has like Linda's whip around her neck too.
Yeah, it's freaking intense. The thing really with Streets of Rage is, like, as great as those games are, the Japanese art's actually pretty rad, but the Western art of Streets of Rage 1 is okay. Streets of Rage 2 is really not great.
I would contend that
Bare Knuckle 2 is pretty cool.
None of the art is particularly good. Well,
Bare Knuckle 2's is very like Japanese, like 80s Japanese, with like the giant head of the bad guy in the background.
It's very sci-fi 80s fantasy.
Yeah, like it's a product of its time, but it looks pretty cool. But the Western art is art really of Streets of Rage 2 makes me think of the Western art of like Street Fighter 2. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, a big part of it is that the characters aren't accurate to their like video game representations.
Yeah, you can tell who each character is, but they look off.
Like Max doesn't look like Max at all.
Max looks ridiculous.
Yeah, he's bald-headed. He's not bald-headed in the game.
Yeah, no.
It's really bad. I don't know why they did that. Streets of Rage 1 has probably the best American art.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
In fact, it's not bad.
It has a lot in common with Final Fight 2. I think the same artist did it. Final Fight 2 and Streets of Rage 1 both have this weird green person poking out of the manhole.
Yeah, like Toxic Avenger? Like, what?
Yeah, it's really weird. And it's in both cover arts, even though the games are unrelated.
That's great.
So there's it has to be the same artist. It has to be. I don't know that for sure, but it has to be. There's no way that two people would have that same separate thought. It's really weird. And then I want, like, the beat 'em up genre doesn't have a whole lot of tentpole releases after that for a long time.
Yeah, like, again, like Golden Axe and Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, so Ninja Turtles, I forgot to mention those. Those were a big Ninja Turtles 2 through 4.
Yeah, 3 I don't think is talked about as much, but it's still very good.
It's a great game.
2's iconic because it was an arcade release and a Nintendo release.
3 is an original release.
Yeah, 3 is an original. 4 is an arcade and Super Nintendo release, and everybody loves 4. Turtles in Time. And Hyperstone Heist was basically the Genesis version of that. Turtles in Time is a little better, but I do have a soft spot for Hyperstone Heist.
Yeah, Hyperstone Heist is what I grew up with because I didn't have a Super Nintendo until later.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I actually really love that game. Plus, it has like original stuff that Turtles in Time doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't realize was I don't know if he's from the comics, but I think he was supposed to be like the movie villain from Turtles 2.
Oh yeah.
Actually, he was in both Turtles movies.
He's.
I say both like there isn't a third, but there.
He's Shredder's like right hand man.
Yes. Ninja vanish.
Go play.
Attack. That guy's great.
Yeah, he's just like that stern, bald-headed like.
Yeah, utterly humorless.
Yeah, Japanese kind of guy, but anyway, was it Tatsu means steel, I believe. But I
don't remember. I just know Tatsumaki is hurricane.
Okay, gotcha. Well, Tatsujin or Truxton is like Steel Man or Metal Man, I think.
Speaking of Maki, actually, she was in Final Fight 2.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Disappeared off the face of the earth until like Capcom versus SNK 2.
Yeah,
she's one of the playable characters. Remember Maki? Yeah, she was in something. What was that? It was such a weird.
And nobody.
It's just like
nobody.
Like yeah, it's just like, Kyosuke from Rival Schools. Remember Rival Schools? Well, here's not the main character. Oh, thanks.
There are plenty of Final Fight characters that don't get mentioned anywhere.
Yeah, Lucia? Like, she's gone.
Lucia is, from 3, right?
She's from 3.
Yeah, and then there's like the guy who had an electrical fist.
Oh yeah, it's like Zan from Streets of Rage 3. It's like whatever.
like there and Carlos, the guy with the sword in Final Fight 2.
Oh god.
Yeah, like all of these people are missing. Yeah. Hagar was the only one that's in all of them.
Yeah, Hagar carried over, just like in Streets of Rage. Blaze and Axel carried over, but Skate and Max were new to 2, and Adam's just fucking gone. Adam was in the first game.
And he's a fan favorite character. It's a shame.
He was cool because his basic combo was like 2 jabs, then he uppercuts you off the ground, but vertically up, and on your way down, he fucking kicks you in the chest and sends you flying. It's great.
Adam was my favorite character in 1. I always played as him, and he is back. In Streets of Rage 4.
He's been gone for over 20 years.
Yeah.
He was playable in 1, and of course he's not in 2 because he's the hostage in 2. That's the whole premise.
Yeah, he's the
damsel. And then he's just kind of not in 3. Like, okay.
Yeah, Skate it basically became his replacement.
Yeah,
which is his little brother.
His little brother.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that he's coming back in the new one.
I mean, like, come on, like. It's low-hanging fruit for fan service, but like you gotta do it.
Well, let's not forget that that Final Fight or Streets of Rage 3 is famous for its like unlockable characters too. Like
yes.
it has Shiva and
I could not fucking believe Shiva.
Ash. Shiva and Ash
and the kangaroo
and kangaroo and Rue, who's named Victi in Japanese. There will probably be unlockable characters in the new one.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah. So
I couldn't believe you could unlock Shiva because he was the second to last boss in 2, and depending what ending you get, possibly the last boss in 3.
But yeah, what I was gonna go on from this is after like the Final Fight series kind of and Streets of Rage like dominated, and the Turtles games dominated in that era. Like and then you have like a Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder, which is really great. But
freaking great. Golden Axe 1 is pretty good. Revenge of Death Adder is brilliant. Golden Axe 2 was only on Genesis, and so was 3. 2 was okay. I don't think it really added too much to the formula.
2 is the weakest one, if you ask me.
Like 2's okay. 3 was interesting because
also you
could choose paths.
It's interesting. It's an interesting game, and it has like art in it and like level design that is a lot different than the other two.
Yeah, like you're on the back of an eagle flying like away from the screen, kind of like Death Adder, you're on the dragon, stuff like that. The music is great, especially that particular level, Ride the Whirlwind, I think it's called. You could choose paths. You have multiple endings depending on whether like you could get a good or bad ending depending on whether you've saved people who have been turned to stone. And if you're playing multiplayer, you can actually do team attacks that use up most, if not all, of your magic. And they're just unique attacks. Like when we did our Let's Play of it, Pyro and I were playing, we like shook hands and then did like a spirit bomb. Like, what is this? It was amazing.
Well, I also wanted to move on. Neo Geo had a couple series, but probably the most prominent one was the Sengoku trilogy.
Yeah, Sengoku.
But other than that, during the 32-bit era, this kind of genre really suffered. There wasn't a whole lot of beat-em-ups. There was a particularly prominent one that is kind of forgotten these days, but there was. This is right when like games were trying to be as do a 3D transition. They didn't want to be around like 2D style anymore.
Even if they still were beat 'em ups, they went 3D, like Final Fight Streetwise.
I was gonna say before that, Fighting Force.
Yeah, Fighting Force was kind of legit, and from what I've heard, that was supposed to be Streets of Rage 4.
It was, and it was made by Eidos. The same company that made like Tomb Raider back in the day.
Yeah.
So, and then there was a Fighting Force 2, which was a lot worse. Now, if you were to ask me, I would have said that Sega ended up making the better 3D beat-em-ups from that era. You had Die Hard Arcade, which was called Dynamite Cop.
Great.
And its sequel, Dynamite Cop 2, or just called Dynamite Cop in the US. Those are a lot better. And they're so much fun. I love them a lot. And I will still play any game in that series. It's so much fun.
Yeah, we played Dynamite Cop several years ago back when you lived at your parents' house.
So much fun. I love those games.
And the ending has you fighting each other for no reason. Like
just like Double Dragon. Yeah.
Just like, which player's better? I don't know.
Well, what I like about that is like the damsel is like in both like Die Hard Arcade and Dynamite Cop and in Double Dragon is so psychopathic, like to make you like battle and kill each other for their affection.
What cracked me up is that like in Dynamite Cop, the Dreamcast one, when you win, you and the girl hold hands with both of your hands and just jump up and down in celebration, like, yay, and like, that's it. It's like, really?
You just killed your partner.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell?
I just love that. But, but it was kind of laid dormant for a while, and probably there was also only one other prominent one in that era, and that was like, and this was more of a cult favorite, and that was Guardian Heroes, which was made by Treasure,
which nobody had because it was on the Saturn.
Yeah, and it was a pretty rare game even for its day. And that was a 3-plane beat 'em up, which is extremely unusual. Usually, it's kind of like an isometric view, and you can kind of move in and out of a playfield. In this one, it had 3 planes, kind of like a Fatal Fury kind of setup, and you could juggle bad guys. It was also like really fun multiplayer, and it also added like leveling and like RPG elements that really
that sounds like the Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em up.
Yeah, it was kind of an evolution of the Capcom Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em up, like you were saying, which is actually the start of George Kamitani, who moved on to make the Vanillaware games, including Dragon's Crown, which is a modern take on that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
actually, one other thing I do want to give a shout out to, just classic Konami beat 'em ups, are the Simpsons and X-Men arcade
Simpsons
games.
too. Yeah.
Those were both iconic enough to have been given a re-release, which are no longer available, but on the networks like PS3 and 360, I don't think they're available anymore, are they?
No, and in fact, we were very lucky that we ever got them at all.
What
To
makes
be
me
honest,
laugh is that the X-Men one had new voiceovers, but
they were still bad.
they still had the bad translation, like "Welcome to Die" and stuff
Yeah,
like that. I
yeah.
was
X
very happy they
chicken.
kept that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The X chicken. It's so good. The White Queen welcomes you to die. Like, what?
But yeah, Capcom had kind of like a bunch of beat 'em ups that kind of had like an RPG feel to it. But yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons ones were both a lot of fun. I think those are still available too. You should definitely buy those if you haven't. And moving on from that, I did want to mention when things kind of had a resurgence, and that was with Castle Crashers,
Yeah.
which was made by the Behemoth after they had made kind of a throwback to Metal Slug with Alien Hominid. They made Castle Crashers, which was like one of the games that I bought an Xbox 360 for. Like I was really, really amped up to play that game, and it did not disappoint. It's everything like a Guardians Heroes style game should be and more, and with a lot of obscure like Newgrounds like humor thrown into it as well. In fact, the end of the game is a big Newgrounds reference that I didn't even get at the time. Do you know what happens at the end of Castle Crashers?
Well, we've talked about this before.
Tricky clown.
Yeah.
Just yeah, yeah, tricky clown. Ugh. But anyway, moving on from that, there were all kinds of games that were kind of made in that wake. There was the Scott Pilgrim game is one of the big ones. I love that game, and it's really a big shame that it is not available anymore. I know that Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator of Scott Pilgrim, really wants to make it available, and they're trying really hard. But I think there's just so many parties at play that are really hard to convince, I guess, to get it forward. I mean, the soundtrack was by Anamanaguchi, which is one of the best video game soundtracks of all time. It is based on it has the movie license, so they need clearance from NBC Universal, which is a Comcast company now. And Ubisoft, who published it. So a lot of people need to agree to it in order to make it happen, and it's a big shame because it has some of the best pixel art ever in it by Paul Robertson.
The art and animation are freaking gorgeous.
It is based on one of the best like video game-y like comics or things of all time. Even the movie's great. Like everything Scott Pilgrim is good.
The movie has like the I think it's the fairy fountain theme from Zelda.
Yes.
I have no idea how they were able to pull that off.
They actually explained it. So Edgar Wright, who is the director of it, and also the Cornetto trilogy. What is it? Shaun of the Dead,
Hot Fuzz at World's End.
Yeah. Which Hot Fuzz? Oh my god. All three of them are fantastic, but Hot Fuzz is like just gets better with age. But he.
Oh, and not to mention Look Around You.
Oh yeah, Look Around You. Yeah, and Baby Driver. And a portion of Ant-Man. But anyway, moving on from that, Edgar Wright apparently was having a hard time convincing Nintendo to do it, and then he personally talked to Miyamoto, I believe, and he said, "You got to let me do this," and he put forth the case. I think he emailed him, and he said, "You have to understand that." Like Zelda music and like all the music of the Super Nintendo were like lullabies for a generation. You have to let me put it in there.
Okay.
And that is what tipped them over.
Nice.
So it's absolutely true. Like this is the stuff I listened to before I went to bed. Like Nintendo music. It's just one of those things. Always humming those things in my head, it's still to this day. Super iconic. So he was able to let them do it based off of that. But there's all kinds of other video game references in that movie. When they say KO, that's from like King of Fighters.
No, I thought it was like Street Fighter Alpha or something.
KO. I thought it was King of Fighters, but I could be wrong.
I don't freaking know. I'm not that big on fighting games. Also, I forgot if it was a band or a location, but Clash of Demon Head, which is just the name of a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
The band Sex Bob-omb, obviously Bob-ombs are the bombs in Mario games.
Two of the brothers are easily an easy reference to Double Dragon. The two of the boyfriends, the twins.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They even have like a double-headed dragon.
Electric dragon attack.
Yeah, they even have a double-headed dragon in their face-off.
Yeah, it's great.
I think they even say "skate or die" when Chris Evans is on there.
And Scott Pilgrim just straight up says, "Hey, look, I've learned the bass riff from the Final Fantasy IV boss theme." He just directly calls it out.
Yeah, what's so cool about that franchise is you will have a good time with any version of it, and there's nothing else like that. Nothing. Like, you can read the original comic book, which is fantastic, and then you can watch the movie, which is a great adaptation of that.
Yeah, they actually are good standalones.
And the video game is a good adaptation of that.
Yeah.
Like, I've never encountered something that, like, hit every single time. Like, it was amazing. So, anyway. And also launched some careers. I mean, Brie Larson, I think that was her first, like, recognizable role that I can remember.
Yeah, and Aubrey Plaza was like the person at the coffee shop.
Yep.
Like, I told you not to fucking date her. She's hilarious.
This is Scott's sister, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, moving on from that. So we also have Dragon's Crown, which is obviously, like a modern, really good take on the Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em ups. And what else do we have? We also have a couple like other ones that I kind of wanted to mention. Double Dragon Neon is one of the funniest games I've ever played.
That game is amazing.
Do you have a Let's Play of that one yet?
Nope.
We should do that.
I still love
sometime.
when you're playing a single player game and the second player joins in the middle
and Jimmy
leaps in, and Jimmy. It's so good.
I actually don't think Billy says anything. I think it's all Jimmy saying stuff.
That makes sense. Billy's super stoic. More like science unfair.
Don't think doesn't he call him like a jerkwad at some point in the game too? Something like that. Like
it was something like
butthead.
I think it was like to Skullmageddon, like you evil jerk or something like really lame.
No, but the brothers like bicker in the game at some point too.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So good. Upon initial viewings, like at like PAX and stuff, I wasn't that impressed by that game, and then like somehow in the like the 6 months between them showing it off and like them releasing that game, it became amazing.
Well, I remember several years ago on a Games Done Quick marathon when the developers of the game were on like Skype chat, like kind of co-commentating with the game, and the person playing through the game said, like, I have to admit I really wasn't into this game very much when I first played it, but at the end of level like 2 or 3 or whatever, when you go in the big like Japanese castle
and it shoots off.
Yeah, it just lifts off into space. He was like, that's the point where like I got it. Like now I see what this game's doing.
This is still playable on Steam, by the way.
That game's freaking great.
It's one of my favorite games of all time, not just like one of my favorite beat 'em ups. It's really, really fucking good. It is the best Double Dragon game for sure. Yeah. I would say that the best Double Dragon game other than this is probably Double Dragon Advance or Double Dragon 2 for the NES. They're all really good, but Neon is just so much fun. It's a fucking blast, and the final boss is hilarious. Like he's just menacing you the whole game, and he's one of the funniest. He's a Skeletor, like an unabashed Skeletor ripoff.
He's obviously a Skeletor. I love when you first beat him and he runs away. Time for me to make my marrow escape. Bon voyage.
So good.
It's like, boo.
And he's making puns all the way through the fucking,
as you're punching him,
credits.
ow, my fibula. Like, what?
He's great. You fight a version of Audrey 2.
That was my favorite. No, I also love, you know how sharks have like jet black eyes?
Yeah.
Like you see
like a doll's eyes.
Like a doll's eyes. But like when you see their eyes kind of bulge out of their heads and then you realize they're the black tip of missiles and they come flying at you, you're like, oh shit. It's amazing.
Love it. Yeah, no, that game is really fantastic. Also has a level up system. Like most modern,
you can replay old levels too. You can grind.
Most modern beat 'em ups have an RPG system of some kind, and
well, yeah, so you don't spend modern money on like a 30-minute game.
Believe it or not, that all started in River City Ransom. River City Ransom was like the first game to have like an RPG system
and stuff.
Yeah, and you had stats and you leveled up in it. So I mean, it's really cool that like all of these things have kind of like come to fruition. There's a couple others that are like lesser games. Like we played Mother Russia Bleeds. We played a bit of that.
That game's decent.
Yeah, that one's pretty fun, but
a little try hard with the use
story
of the F word in the dialogue.
Yeah,
we get it. It's rated M. Like, all right.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I would definitely say that the other games that we've mentioned have been like way better than that one in particular.
And that game's still pretty good too.
Yeah, and it's not a waste of your time to play that. But what's kind of cool is the beat 'em up genre has kind of expanded. Like there are a couple like roguelite beat 'em ups nowadays. I think what is it, Devil's Dare and Streets of Rogue are out there now.
That's right. Oh, actually, one thing I should go back to for a more traditional beat 'em up is traditional in the gameplay mechanics, but it's a little extra in that you're capable of things you didn't think you were. Denshi Cop. Where it's like, oh look, there's a whole motorcycle. You just pick it up with one hand and just beat people with it like it's a pipe. Like what? It's great.
Yeah, you can actually do that in River City Girls. You can actually pick up a bicycle and just like smack people with it.
Very nice, very nice. And it's like a thing you do in freaking Yakuza. It's like, wait a minute.
Like these little these small framed like teenage girls are like picking up like this beautiful like pixel bike and just like smacking people with it.
That's fantastic.
Just like in River City Ransom, it kind of makes more it's more believable in River City Ransom, but you can like pick up the squat bad guys and like throw them around and like smack people with the other people. Yeah. Well, in River City Girls, you can eventually learn like level up enough to pick up the other bad guys, and you see this little girl smacking other gigantic guys with other gigantic guys. It's so funny. I definitely recommend that game. It's just it can be seen kind of as a sequel to Double Dragon Neon. I would even say, just kind of with all of its references and stuff like that. And it's clearly made by the same people. So I just kind of wanted to have like a review of games like this, just because I'm excited about them again. Yeah. So in definitely go back and play some of Capcom's old beat 'em ups too. Like they have a beat 'em up collection on the Switch and PS4. Really good stuff in that as well. Also want to make a quick mention of Alien vs Predator, which is a very unsung title. I mean, you'll hear beat 'em up fans talk about it, but and also Punisher and Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
They're all a lot of fun, but unfortunately, like it's just like inaccessible. Unfortunately, just because of the rights issues associated with it. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was a comic book back in the day. So, but Guardian Heroes is playable on the Xbox One, thankfully. Because it was re-released on the Xbox 360 and it is a backwards compatible title. And Code of Princess is made by some of the same people, and that is a game that is on all modern games. I don't like it quite as much as Guardian Heroes, but it's still pretty good, and it's a fun play. Do you have any others that you wanted to mention before we move on to
No, I think
fan
that's
stuff?
probably it.
Yeah, I just wanted to sing the praises of some of those games because it's just so much fun. Basically, what makes them good is the feel of playing them, the bad guys, the music, and just the set pieces. So all of these games that we've been talking about have all of those things in common. So definitely go back and play some of your favorite beat 'em ups because it's time. All right, Lotus, let's move on to fan stuff, please.
Why, sure. So we have a few comments. Living Corpse says, Spawn's Mortal Kombat 11 trailer is the most 90s thing I've seen and heard in a long time, and I fucking love it. 90s is my favorite decade. A shame that Trivium's track, the band whose music they use in the trailer, won't be in the game. Yeah, that is kind of a shame when that happens. I still remember Street Fighter V's trailer for Fong, like F period, A period, N period, G period. The music for his trailer is freaking excellent, and it's just not in the game. Sabrina Hengel says, usually, regarding what your purchase decisions are, usually I wait until games are on sale before I buy them, especially AAA games, not because I don't care about them, but as you said, they'll be available forever and discounted or re-released pretty quickly. Therefore, more obscure ones, like AI Somnium Files, are way more interesting to me. Games I pre-order or pick up on day one are games I'm really looking forward to, or want to support the company more through them for whatever reason. In that case, I usually buy the special or limited edition of that game, and the last time I did that was with Persona 5. So basically, either I spend a lot of money, or as little as possible. Yeah, I know that feel.
Yeah, we're basically the same way.
And then finally, Anthony Cooper says, Spawn's talks to Scorpion in the battle dialogue, being in Soul Calibur 2, that's so cool. Yeah, you know how in the Mortal Kombat games lately, there's character A says something, B responds, and then A responds to that? So Spawn and Scorpion have a pretty amusing bit of dialogue. I actually recently saw just a compilation of those. Scorpion says that he's been in other Hell realms, and there's a lot of injustice, because, Scorpion was a guest character in Injustice.
Yeah.
And then Spawn replies, my soul still burns, because he was in Soul Calibur 2.
That's
I was
amazing.
Oh! Yeah, it's
I
pretty
didn't know
good.
they had a reference like that. That's cool.
Yeah, a nice little double wink right there. That's pretty great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I get a kick out of that. So the question, this one I think is going to be straightforward. Falcafon asks, what is your favorite potato chip flavor? And which ones would you like to try out?
Well, what would you like to do? What flavor would you like to mix it up with here with Lotus?
Honestly, I don't even know if I would. The flavors that I particularly like are plain barbecue and
plain.
You know stuff like candy corn where you can only eat a little of it and you're like, that's enough.
Yeah.
But when you have 3 of them, you're like, this is really good. That's how sour cream and onion is to me. I cannot possibly gorge on sour cream and onion, but if I have a few of them, I'm like, nice.
So, my favorite flavor is actually my 2 favorite flavors are actually ones that are they're a unique taste. They're kind of you may not like it. It's one of those things is you either love it or hate it. An acquired taste, I should say. So my top one is salt and vinegar chips. I love them.
Yeah, just the name alone makes me want to stay as far away from it as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, chips have salt, duh, but vinegar is just I can't be near vinegar.
I love pickles and things like that, and
there you go.
I love acidic food, but some people hate acidic food. But I love things like buffalo wings. That's an acidic food.
Yeah, I don't mind the acidity. It's just the smell of vinegar is just a turnoff for me. It's kind of to put this into perspective. I've been to Scotland once, right? And I was having a wintergreen breath saver. And they, the people I was with just couldn't get themselves to like it because they were like, I associate that with cleaning products. That's how I am with vinegar. Like, it's just like, nope. Although, I mean, I know that lemon and orange are also cleaning product scents, but I think those are more traditionally acceptable as like food flavors.
Yeah,
but with vinegar, I just can't do it.
I love vinegar flavored things, so salt and vinegar are my favorite. I even like pickle flavored ones if they come around. There are a couple times I've had like pickle flavored chips. That's pretty cool. But probably my next favorite is like jalapeno flavored chips. I love those as well, and that's of course an acquired taste as well.
That's one of those ones. Like, that is not one that I think I would ever buy, but like I might consider giving that a shot.
Yeah, I
if
really
I saw one
like
in front
that
of me,
one.
like, okay.
Yeah, I really like those. But that those are pretty much it. Most flavors I actually like. Okay. I kind of got sick of barbecue flavored ones, believe it or not. So
Well, no,
like,
that is true. Like, I actually, as cliche as it sounds, I prefer plain. Barbecue is good if I want to like change things up every once in a while, but like I can't just keep eating barbecue chips. It does taste a little bit like, I don't get tired of it as fast as sour cream and onion, but there's definitely a limit on barbecue chips.
I like sour cream and onion potato chips as well. But yeah, out of all of them, I would say that my favorite is sour cream. Not
Yeah, salt and vinegar.
Salt and vinegar. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
really good. I want to give also a shout out to you may not have these in your area. You most likely don't, because I kind of have to like get these special ordered every once in a while. But in Ireland, they have a potato chip brand called Tayto, Tayto, and I had some while I was over there. I was able to get some more in a local like British Irish store.
Sure.
But they have this. All of their potato chips are great. They have like a particular texture to them that is different than the ones you get around here, like that are different, like the Hers ones or whatever you eat around here, or Lay's or whatever. But they have a particularly good flavor that I really like, called a cheddar and onion. That's really good. And they also have a smoky bacon one that's really good. They also have a smoky bacon one that's really good.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I actually have it right here, and I love their mascot. He's just like a guy in a a suit with like a happy like potato head.
Actually, if we want to talk about like weird European exclusives, in Scotland I saw a flavor of Pringles that I've never seen in the States, which was like spare ribs flavored.
Oh yeah.
I don't even remember if I liked it like the most or anything, but I was like, dude, there's no way that I'm not trying this.
And you also have to hand it to the Contra Pringles they have in China.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, I will say this isn't a flavor, but I do quite like the kettle cooked chips as well.
Oh yeah, no, I like those as well. In fact, the crispier the better.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it just really, I don't know if I would say enhances, but it does in some way improve the experience for me. I guess that's what enhanced means, but like, I don't know, I do just kind of like it that way.
Absolutely. All right, well, I think we did pretty well with that. I think we'll have to move on and wrap the show up here. What do you think?
Nah.
Okay. They're crisps, not chips, first of all.
I guess one very minor shout out to Pringles pizza flavored chips. Again, like, I could eat some of those, but like, they're fun while they last.
Well, how do they taste?
I hear they're pizzalicious.
There you go. Always makes me want to play Grape Escape.
Oh, jeez.
They had kind of like the same like Italian generic theme.
Well, also like similar kind of like possibly clay like animation.
Yeah. Well, that is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, 5-star ratings on iTunes, and likes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays for our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. God, I'm tired. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting involved in discussions with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider switching to Discord. Stop what you're doing. Go to Discord. Perhaps consider swinging. Now. Attack. Perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon accounts, which
White
can be
Ranger
found at
Tiger Power now.
Now. Patreon.com/Lotus Prince.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on Tuesday.
Ninja vanish.
Go. Play.
Bye-bye.
Bye.